Welcome to the Get Published podcast, sponsored by Brodie Consulting Group. To get more information about our coaching, publishing, executive ghostwriting, and podcast production services, go to getpublishedpodcast.com. I am Paul Brodie, and thank you for joining us for another episode of the Get Published podcast, where we help authors get published with a proven system that works. And today, we're being joined by Megan Bendtzen, the author of the Life Bacon Playbook. I love that title. Let's get serious about having fun. Megan, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
And you got me craving bacon.
Hungry for life. That's what it's all about.
I love it.
Making life better.
Megan, we are thrilled to have you. Are you ready to begin?
I feel like I'm on a game show. Yes, I'm playing against myself. I hope I win.
All right. Well, for the first round, I'd like to ask you, what is the one piece of advice that you would give to a first-time author who is currently writing their book or their playbook?
Yeah, okay. Well, I would say that you don't have to start at the beginning because sometimes the hardest part is just getting started or knowing where to begin. So start with something that comes easy for you. For example, like if, say you know how you want it to end, just start there. Or if there's one piece or an element that you want in there somewhere, just write that part, just one chapter or paragraph and build around it. Maybe it's just, outlining the titles of the chapters, because sometimes as writers, it feels like we just, we want to come up with just the right way to say something with beautiful words and have it flow. And I know for me, I can get so stuck on coming up with the words that I want to use that I start to lose my message, of what I really want to say. I know you said one piece of advice, but here's one more. If you find yourself getting stuck, that is to tell your story out loud in as many ways as you can. So if there's podcasts that you can be a guest on, or create your own little vignettes to post on social media, or at the very least, just do that voice to text thing on your phone. Because one of the most natural ways to tell a story is to just tell it and speak it out loud. And when you hear yourself, and even as you're talking through it, it can really help provide some clarity and feedback on the best way to get that message across.
That's going to be our hook for the episode, telling your story out loud. I love that, and I'm a big fan of doing that as well. My last book about summits spoke out the entire book, and then just went back and edited it. And I used a program called Otter.ai, which is I think it's like $9 a month, $10 a month, and you essentially get unlimited time to be able to utilize it for transcription. So you're absolutely right. I mean, you can just speak it out. You don't have to necessarily type in everything or even write it down. You can just talk it out. I mean, content is content.
Yes, and I mean, if you're like me and you love to talk, then yeah, just talk it out. And even the same way, if you tell the same story many different ways, and you can just kind of practice hearing it back, and just it really helps figure out the best way to tell your story.
Well, what do you feel is the hardest part about getting published? So getting this process done, what do you feel the hardest part is?
Well, that's kind of a funny question for me because I don't actually know the steps to getting published. I have an assumption that I have built up in my mind about it, that it's daunting and difficult and expensive. And so I completely avoided it altogether. And I used Canva to design my book for free, and I've been putting it out there currently as a free download during my launch period. But eventually, I'd like to officially publish it. And I'd probably start here with you, Paul, because you have what appears to be a pretty turnkey process.
Well, I mean, the main thing is it's about systems, right? And everything comes down to that. And I love the fact that you have utilized your book for that lead generation, because that transitions perfectly into our next question. So this isn't necessarily book launch specific, but just to share a marketing strategy that you have used to share your guide around to people. So what are some strategies that you have used that you feel has worked well for this lead generation?
Yeah, well, free is good. Like I said, my entire book is available for free right now. But if you don't want to do something like that, maybe just put out chapter 1, as a free download. Another thing I'd recommend is maybe just taking a piece of it and submitting it to various online magazines or media outlets, because they're always looking for content. And so you can take pieces of your book and turn them into articles, and at the end of the article, you can plug your book. If people want to read more about this, here's where they can go. But I think that, and this kind of goes back to your other question too about, when things get hard, I think I just would also like to say that no matter what part of the process becomes hard or difficult, is just not to let the obstacles derail you, but instead to use that. And if you can remember this philosophy, and I love this phrase, things don't happen to us, they happen for us. So that whenever things become hard, you embrace it and you figure out what there is to learn from that, because most likely that's going to be part of your success.
Perfect. Well, speaking of books, I'd like to know what is your favorite book and what was the number one thing that you learned from it?
Oh, that's so easy. My favorite book is The Motivation Manifesto by Brendon Burchard. And I read this book and it got me to wake up to my life and to start making plans instead of just unconsciously floating along. I mean, I always knew that I wanted more out of my life and more for myself, but I didn't know what, I didn't know how. And this book really just snapped me into reality. And it just started a whole chain of events that completely altered the course of my life. I mean, I recently quit my career of 14 years. I walked away from a 6-figure income at a Fortune 100 company to pursue this dream of mine. And the book that's really helping me now and changing the way that I think is Limitless by Jim Quick. Is another good one. So there's two for you. You keep asking me for one thing and I keep giving you two.
Hey, just double the value, right?
I like to over deliver, or I'm bad at following instructions.
So the other book you mentioned, we've had that reference before. So it was Limitless, correct?
Yeah.
And who was the author again on that one?
Jim Quick, Kwik.
That's right.
It's one of the most fascinating books. I'm in the middle of it right now, and it's a game changer. Like it's all about how your brain works and how you talk to yourself and the thoughts that you have on a daily basis, and how you can just alter the course of your life by changing the way that you think and talk.
And that's what I don't think a lot of people realize, is the fact that you have to train your mind as much as you train your body. And in fact, today as we're recording this, I actually celebrated 200 consecutive days of exercise on my bike, and it's literally just saved my life. Like when the pandemic hit, didn't really, getting depressed. I was drinking things I shouldn't be drinking, eating foods I shouldn't be eating. And I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to put on this pandemic 50. So let's get our act together. And it's that same thing, right? I mean, part of the time is training your body, but when you train your body, then you train your mind. So like with me, it's daily exercise, daily meditation. But it's the thing. It's training your mind and training your body. I think they're equally important.
Absolutely. Congratulations. That's a great goal and a great commitment.
Well, and the thing is, it keeps you motivated in times like this, especially when sheltering in place. It's one of the best things to do is just stay focused and keep working, right?
Yes.
Well, for our final question, forward. Absolutely. And as we move forward to our final question, what is your favorite quote and why?
Oh, this is my absolute favorite quote. Whether you think you can or think you can't, you're right. And I think this speaks a lot to what Jim Quick talks about in his book, and what we were just talking about, the ways we limit ourselves with the beliefs that we hold. And so I always think of this quote when I catch myself or when I hear other people saying things like, oh, I'm just not very creative, or I could never write a book, and it's all up to you, I suppose, whether you think you can or think you can't. You're right. More often than not, we're the only ones that stand in our own way of success.
Absolutely. Well, Megan, I want to thank you for being a guest on the show. What is the best way for people to find you online?
www.lifebacon.com. I'm also on all the social media channels, LifeBaconMegan, but lifebacon.com has all the info.
I'm assuming that book as well, right?
Yes, it's available on my website for free. So check it out. Incorporate some joy into your life.
Well, Megan, thank you once again for being on the show, and I wish you all the best in your author journey ahead.
Thanks, Paul. Take care.
Thanks again for joining us today. To learn more about how to get your book published with a proven system that works, grab a free copy of my book at getpublishedpodcast.com.